investigate.
Thank you. I yield back.
Back, the gentleman from Florida, Mr. Gaetz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, are you going to subpoena Robert Mueller? I'll yield to you to answer.
I'm not going to answer that at this time.
Well, we're here in part 2 of lessons from the Mueller report. And so I'm wondering how we're going to learn those lessons. During part 1 of lessons of the Mueller report, we brought in John Dean to re-examine the Nixon impeachment. Perhaps during part 2, we'll get to the impeachment of Andrew Johnson. Well, maybe the folks here could teach us some lessons for the witnesses so that we don't have to individually go through. Here's the question, and raise your hand if you would answer this in the affirmative. Do any witnesses here have personal knowledge regarding the truth or falsity of a single material fact in the Mueller report? If you have personal knowledge regarding the truth or falsity of a single material fact, just raise your hand so I can figure out who to ask the question to. So the record can reflect no witnesses have raised their hand. No witness has any personal knowledge regarding a single fact in the report. No witnesses last week had personal knowledge.
Will the gentleman yield? I take your point. Will the gentleman yield?
Would the gentleman yield?
Well, I'll certainly yield to the chairman because I'm eager to get to the lesson.
I would remind the gentleman that there is an ongoing controversy that the White House is asserting the right to prohibit the testimony of any witness with regard to anything that happened.
I'm going to reclaim my time.
I
fully understand and appreciate that, Mr. Chairman. But
will the gentleman yield to my...
I will not, because I want to respond to the chairman's assertion. The person over whom the White House can assert no privilege is Robert Mueller. And you have the power to subpoena Robert Mueller. You have used subpoena power extensively in this committee, and you won't subpoena the person who wrote the report. And so this hearing should not be entitled Lessons from the Mueller Report. It should be entitled Hot Takes from the Mueller Report, because what we're getting are people who have no knowledge of the facts, no information as to the underlying information. They're just reading it and offering their analysis and their hot takes. But I think that there's a far more critical issue that our committee should be addressing and that we could address. Right now, we're at a circumstance where upwards of 5,500 people are arriving every day on our southern border. And this committee has the jurisdiction to reform our asylum laws, to secure the border, to make changes to ensure that we have a country that's protected and a rule of law that's maintained. Fortunately, actually, one of our witnesses is somewhat of an expert on this subject. Ms. Cordero, you are...
The committee's not in order.
I'm sorry, did someone say a point of order? What?
Mr. Chairman, I said the committee's not in order.
Oh.
The
committee will be in order.
Ms. Cordero, you are somewhat of an expert on the activities that go on our southern border, aren't you?
I do some work related to national security and homeland security in my capacity as a senior fellow, yes.
And in 2013 for Georgetown, you wrote an essay entitled Breaking the Mexican Cartels, a Key for Homeland Security Challenge.
Mr. Chairman, at this time, I'm going to interrupt and say that this hearing is about part 1 of the Mueller investigation.
I wish it was about the Mueller report. I really wish it was, Mr. Johnson.
Border.
They don't know anything about the Mueller report.
The gentleman will suspend. The gentleman will proceed. The gentleman has the time.
You wrote, breaking the Mexican cartels is no easy feat, but is a necessary one to secure our southern border, eliminate the presence of dangerous cartels in our cities, reduce Americans' contribution to the drug trade and resulting violence, and play our role in restoring the Mexican citizenry to a free society from daily terror. Is it your impression that since you wrote this in 2013, that the circumstances on our southern border have gotten better or worse?
I will, excuse me, the gentleman will suspend. Since this does not this has nothing to do with part 1 or volume 1 or volume 2 of the Mueller report or anything conceivably,
Mr. Chairman,
or anything conceivably within the ambit of this this hearing or the notice of this hearing, the witness may or may not reply at his or her discretion.
I'm happy to respond, Congressman. When I wrote that report, I thought that it was an issue that needed attention It was not at the beginning of the Obama administration something that I think did get sufficient attention. There clearly is a changed circumstance. We are in 2019 now. There is clearly a humanitarian problem on the southern border that needs to be addressed. What you will not find in that article is any mention of a wall as a response to that challenge, nor any encouragement of the use of emergency authorities to solve
I
the
understand that, but you recognize the crisis, you recognize that it's worse, and I acknowledge that the wall may be something that divides us, but reforming our asylum laws, ensuring that we've got the supplemental appropriation in place to make sure people aren't dying on our border, and reducing the terror you write about is a lot more important. And hearing from
Time
people
of the
that know
gentleman
nothing about the Mueller report, purport
time
to
of
give
the
us
gentleman-
lessons on the Mueller report.
Time of the
I-
gentleman has expired.
Mr. Chairman, you guys
Gentlemen,
take way
point of-
more than your
point of
allocated
order.
time,
Point of
and then you
order.
take my time and impose on it, and then restrict it. This
Gentlemen will
is a total farce, and it's no wonder witnesses don't want to come here and testify to this committee. I yield back.
I'd be happy to come back and talk about Homeland Security at another time.
And we may invite you at some other time. The gentleman has yielded
Maybe
back.
Homeland Security will invite you.
Gentleman has.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman.
Gentleman will state his point of order.
Is the other side permitted to impugn the character and badger witnesses?
Nobody is permitted to impugn the character or badger witnesses. The gentleman from Florida, Mr. Deutsch.